In today's review, an angry horde of gamers from Earth attack a colony planet in Matt Dinniman's Operation Bounce House. Does Operation Bounce House live up to the popularity of Dungeon Crawler Carl? Stick around in the video to find out. Many of you may already be familiar with Matt Dinniman from his very popular fantasy series, Dungeon Crawler Carl. And his newest book steps into the science fiction genre with Operation Bounce House. So does this book live up to the Dungeon Crawler Carl series? Well, I can't answer that question because I haven't read Dungeon Crawler Carl, but I have read Operation Bounce House, and I will have to say I don't think it lives up to the popularity of the series, at least in my view. I have a very mixed reaction of this book. I sometimes enjoyed it, I sometimes did not enjoy it, and I kind of landed right in the middle of it with a very mixed reception on it. But we're going to get more into that during this review video. And before I get too far into the review, let me talk about the edition of this book I have. So I did get the Broken Binding edition, which was part of the Broken Bindings, one of the subscription boxes. And I will say this is a extremely nice book. It's got some really fantastic artwork on it, and it is signed by Matt Dinniman. And the problem is the story doesn't quite live up to the illustrations on the book cover. So let's get into what this book is about. This is a very action-oriented story with very little real substance to it, and it is devoid of the humor that could possibly add to its entertainment value, despite Dinniman's obvious effort to often try to inject some humor into it. The humor just kind of fell flat to me. It's a story that uses kind of a very common video game setting and flips it around on its head. So it essentially tells the stories of the NPCs, the non-player characters, on the other side of a horde of aggressive gamers. We follow the character of Oliver Lewis, living on the colony planet of New Sonora. His life is upended when a gang of mechs from Earth show up in a dropship and start killing the citizens of New Sonora. These mechs, or mechanized robots, are piloted remotely by gamers on Earth, often immature teenagers, playing a game called Operation Bounce House. The game of Operation Bounce House is run and controlled by a very powerful corporation on Earth called Apex Industries. And along with Earth's government, they have sent these gamers on a mission to kill terrorists on New Sonora. And the problem is, there are no terrorists on New Sonora. It's a planet of simple farmers who are peaceful, but they happen to be in the way of corporate and governmental interest on Earth. So instead of using a traditional military to remove these citizens, this convoluted game is created by Apex Industries, where people on Earth can pay into this system and remotely pilot these mechs. So while the main mission here is to wipe out these terrorists, this company is also making a lot of money along the way. Oliver Lewis and his friends, however, are not going to go down without a fight. And with the help of their AI hive queen, Roger, and a hive of agricultural honeybee drones, they are able to mount a formidable defense. So we do have here the premise of what could be a potentially entertaining and fun science fiction novel. Although if you think a little bit too hard about it, it doesn't really make sense. So this Apex Industries has this massive operation going on with these mechanized robots that are piloted by people on Earth. And they are able to instantly communicate through this gate system that allows signals and ships to pass through from the Earth solar system into the New Sonora solar system. So I can kind of see what Dinniman was trying to do here. He's, kind of almost making a comment on, modern video games and the culture around it. How we have these, immature gamers showing up, throwing out insults, with no real regard to what they're doing. They show up on this planet and start killing people and And the start of this novel, I thought it had a really good start to it. We had this initial gang of mechs show up before like the big horde, and there's Oliver interacting with one of them, and this mech robot's going around destroying things, and it gets attacked by one of the honeybee drones, and this little kid piloting the mech starts throwing out these insults, and I was like, okay, this is kind of funny. So this has some potential. But Dinniman never really gets back to that level of humor that was at the beginning of the novel. So I was hoping he'd kind of go harder into the angle of you have all these immature gamers, flinging out insults, the kind that, if you ever played games online, especially, back in the old Xbox days, you probably are familiar with how people communicate with each other while playing those games. And I kind of got that vibe at the beginning, but he really doesn't go back to that, which was kind of disappointing because I think it would have added some more humor and some entertainment value to the book. And so yeah, he does try to inject some humor into it as the story goes on, but often the jokes kind of fall flat for me. I just didn't find them very funny. And we also had this other plot angle where, so these colonists on New Sonora, they came here, a generation ago in a generational starship. They all came down to the planet. They had this AI that they decided the AI was going crazy, and they had to crash the ship into the planet. And so the farmers on this colony, they're struggling a little bit. They're getting close to running out of resources, but they do have a viable farming community going. And Oliver Lewis and his family in particular have this drone system of they call these drones the honeybees, and they are controlled by an AI. So this AI Roger is actually the most interesting character in the book. So Roger is a very important part of this story. He interacts with the family, Oliver and his sister, and Roger's almost kind of a caretaker for them. They did have this situation where so their parents are dead. So there was a plague that wiped out kind of the second generation of people, and Oliver and his sister are like the third generation. So they were mostly raised by their grandfather. Their grandfather passed away, and Roger the AI kind of takes over their care for them. And I liked, any interaction with Roger was really a highlight of the story, and I enjoyed those sections quite a bit. Roger gives them these lessons, and he has rules and all this stuff going on. And as the story goes, it's he has a lot more parts to play, and he becomes a very important character in this story. So I have to say, Matt Dinniman really did a great job with Roger, the AI Hive Queen, and Roger and his honeybee drones also help defend the planet against these mechs. So we have this situation as the game Operation Bounce House escalates. All these gamers with their mech robots come down to the surface of the planet, and Oliver and his friends are kind of able to mount this defense against them despite having no training or experience with weapons at all. They're able to fight off these robots that themselves have all kinds of crazy weapons on them. So that kind of takes a little bit, you gotta have a little bit of a suspension of disbelief there. But that's okay because, as long as the book stays entertaining. Unfortunately, it did not. We have, so there are some action scenes in it. In between the action scenes, we have, Oliver just kind of strategizing with his family and stuff, how to defend against these people. And it's just, some parts just, it's like in between the action scenes, the story's a little bit boring. And like I said, the humor doesn't land. But even the action scenes themselves aren't interesting, except the beginning novel. There just wasn't enough of the interaction between the gamers piloting the mechs and Oliver and his family on the surface. I wanted more banter. I wanted more back and forth between the two. And as far as the other characters go, we have Oliver Lewis, we have his sister Lulu, we have his best friend Sam, and of course we have Roger, and there are some other minor characters, but they really don't add too much to this series. And Oliver and his friends also have this they have this band called the Rhythm Mafia, which that kind of plays a role later on near the ending that I didn't really care for too much. But most of these characters don't really have a whole lot of depth to them, except for Roger. Of course, he is the best character in this. So we do have a handful of characters, but they're just not. I mean, they're okay. They're nothing noteworthy. Nothing really stood out to me beyond Roger. There's also some other concepts at play that I'll talk a little bit more about later in the video, but there's on Earth, AI generated content was banned, and AIs were banned, and all these other aspects going on with the story. There's 3D printing is used to create infrastructure and things like that. So there are all these these neat little concepts kind of included throughout the world building. But we're looking at only a very surface level view of these concepts, and it's not the kind of hard science fiction that you're going to really explore these concepts and ideas. And I often found a lot of the story repetitive. Some of the action scenes and things are very repetitive. And there's a lot of kind of filler in the story where I really think maybe 50 to 100 pages of this book could have been cut out. Even though with Dinniman's writing style, the story does move fairly quickly, I just felt like, we could have had a decent chunk of it cut out of the story. So with all that said, it's kind of an overview of what the plot is, of what to expect from the story. So let me get into a little bit of the science fiction concepts explored in this novel. Starting with generational starships. So the original colony settlers do arrive in a generation starship, and from there they go down to the planet's surface and use farming and 3D printing to build their infrastructure and things like that. But it all starts with this generation starship, and there are some ships kind of floating around in orbit around the planet, but that play kind of a small role in this book, but they don't play a major part in the novel. And the second concept, of course, is this colony planet itself, the planet of New Sonora. For the most part, it is habitable by humanity. There's not really any terraforming going on or anything like that. There was this mysterious plague that wiped out the second generation of settlers, and that's explored a little bit later in the book, but it's pretty much almost a ready-made planet for humanity. And we also do have this gate system for travel. So this doesn't happen till after the ships show up. Then they're able to construct this transportation gate in the solar system that allows instantaneous travel. The details aren't really explored, but I'm guessing instantaneous travel from one solar system to another. And there's also a mention of other planets that have been colonized as well. And this also allows for instantaneous communication. And for the next concept, we have the big one, the remotely piloted mechanized robots. So this Apex Industries shows up with a ship full of mechs and sends them down to the planet New Sonora. And of course, thanks to the gate technology, these gamers on Earth are able to remotely pilot these mechs like a video game. And for the next concept, which is probably my favorite concept from this novel, is the AI. So we do have an artificial intelligence in here, Roger, the character, and there are some other AIs mentioned, but the one we focus on is Roger. Roger is a very interesting AI. I really like his character. This is my favorite part of the book, and I did think Matt Dinniman really did a good job creating this interesting AI character. And that gets us right into the next and final concept, the drone system. So this AI, Roger, he's the hive queen of a system of agricultural drones called honeybee drones. And these drones help with building things, they help with farming, and they eventually end up helping with the defense of the planet. So they have all these different kinds of uses, and I did also like the drone system. It was really an interesting part of this book as well. For my overall review and rating of Operation Bounce House by Matt Dinniman, I did find the characters often cringy and juvenile, and while a cast of such characters could be elevated with some comedy, the jokes often fell flat. I think the plot is just interesting enough and fast-paced enough, but it lacks any real depth. Roger, the Hive Queen AI, is the most interesting character and is a fascinating concept in the story. And he provides himself kind of a character growth arc that I think elevates this book from being outright unlikable. So overall, this is not a novel that I would recommend to readers, but it's not one that I would recommend you to avoid it either, if that makes sense. I didn't like it, but I also didn't hate it. There were good parts, there were bad parts, there were entertaining parts, there were boring parts. It could have been improved with some editing, with some cutting out, 50, 100 pages or so maybe. And with a little bit of added humor to the plot, this could have been a lot better. Could have elevated it to a 3 or 4 star read. So I'm going to give it right in the middle of my ratings, which is going to be a 2.5 out of 5 stars. So that for me, like a 3 star is a book that I like. A 2 star is a book that I did not like. This is landing right in the middle of all of that. So it's a very mixed reaction from me. It's not going to prevent me from reading more novels by Matt Dinniman. I don't know if I'm ever going to read his Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I might. I know it leans a little more fantasy, so more of a sci-fi guy. I do like the occasional fantasy, but so maybe I'll read it someday. Maybe I won't. We'll see. Maybe Matt Dinniman will write another science fiction novel in the future. I don't know. But the book certainly did not quite live up to the expectations for me. And so for any future novels of his, I'm probably going to hesitate to read, but consider it based on, of course, the subject matter of whatever the book is at the time. So that's all I have to say for this novel. Let me know in the comments, have you read any of Matt Dinniman's novels? Have you read Dungeon Crawler Carl? Did you enjoy it? Do you plan on reading Operation Bounce House? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you next time.